Good morning, guys. Today I will bring you with what I remember in my experience and our PE 200 Tornado in a typical Bosnian sortie. So, as you all aware of, if you're aviation enthusiast, Tornado was conceived back in late 60s as a Cold War machine. So, to counteract the Soviet air dominance in that area, possible nuclear strike capability, and as a deterrent, and also a low-level conventional bomber in a ship, and later on different versions which are not really appropriate for that airframe. I think ECR capability, electronic counter reconnaissance version, and also a very not successful air defense version of the same airframe. But I only flew the IDS, interdiction strike version, so that's what I'm just going to talk about. The Tornado it was and still is in some ways unprecedented, powerful machine. At the time that we entered in service with this, and remember, this is a tri-national effort among three nations in European theater: Great Britain at the time, Germany, so Great Britain with the British Airspace, Germany with Messerschmitt, MBB was called, and Italy with Air Italia. And just to cut the story short, it was a cooperation among these three nations. Each individual factory was building a part of the airframe, engines, radar, weapon system, etc., etc. So it was a tri-national product. So was the training that it was conducted up in RAF Cottesmore in England, where we were trained by instructors coming from all different nations. Could have been German Luftwaffe or Navy, RAF itself, or Italian Air Force, in different numbers, but that was the idea. Anyways, the aircraft itself, again, a powerful machine, was utilized widely in combat missions throughout his career. Still is in some ways, in a lot of campaigns, a lot of exercise such as red flag, maple flag, and different TLPs, tactical leadership programs, exercises, and different minor exercises in the world. But what I will talk about today will be purely the Bosnia War, Bosnia-Herzegovina at the time, crisis that started off early 90s, 92 time frame, as you remember, and he involved all NATO nations intervening in that theater to mitigate the massacre that was at the time was happening. And I'm not going to political. I'm just stating what was the mission was with in regards to our employment of our aircraft. A typical day for an air crew in my base, which was Italian Air Force Base Gioia del Colle, Southern Italy. We were hosting also RAF Squadron, different aircraft that in turn deployed in Gioia, starting with the Jaguars and Harrier GR4s after that, and then the Jaguar Squadron came back and so forth. They were doing exact same profile. Typical day was a crew composed of two pilots, two navs, were always on standby 24/7, different time, 15 and 30 minutes apiece. And it was an air crew that was pre-flighting the aircraft, so 2 plus 2 spares were always ready to be launched with the platform aligned and weapons mounted, everything fueled up. Everything was ready to go just in case we received a sort of scramble, not really a scramble, but a launch order. If we didn't receive a last-minute launch order, we already knew what we were going to fly the following day, because the previous day, night, we received an ATO, air task order, like a frag, a piece of paper issued by Vicenza at the time, was the host that was hosting the 5th ATAF headquarters, where they monitor and decided where to intervene, what to do, what asset utilize, and so forth. And we have a liaison officer stationed up there as well that was exactly that, liaisoning between the headquarters and the squadron in case there was some detail to be spread out through, a scrambled communication through secure voice and text messages. But this ATO basically detailed the mission itself, the target area, at least, if not the target itself. Sometimes we had that target with the picture of the pinpoint, the MPI, or just the area, and then we had to get in touch with the local flag. We'll get to that later on. So typical day was early morning launch. Pre-flight aircraft was already done. We just had to basically at the last minute intel brief from the intel officer, get a last minute brief from the weather guy. DO told us what was the situation like in terms of rapidly evolving intel situation, also from a airborne theater point of view. Usually on the ATO, we were given the type of platform we were going to refuel from. Could have been a KC-10, KC-135, even if the good old C-130 sometimes, which we all hated because of the speed, not because of the aircraft itself, but the speed it was flying at, or 707 from our Italian friends, compatriots, or French 707s. And I must say my favorite was the KC-10 from U.S. National Guard. It's a very stable platform, very easy to plug in on a good day, of course. But when I saw something else, like a Victor or anything else, and I was, okay, it'll be challenging tomorrow, but hey, got to do what you got to do. So we launched in pairs, not pair takeoff because we were heavy and full of weapons. Typical was we were carried a payaway or gun bombs depending on the targets, and if it was a payaway involved, which is a laser guided bomb, as you know, we have a CPLDC pod, a designator pod for the bomb itself. We could self-designate or designate our wingman or vice versa bombs anyways. So we're very flexible in that sense. What usually happened, we took off, we had a rendezvous with the tanker, mid-level, like 200 or 220, in a certain point, still in the friendly airspace, rejoin visually, plug in 20 minutes apiece, usually get 30,000 kilograms of fuel. And then we were in touch also with the ABCCC, it was the Airborne Command and Control, which gave us, through our half-quick radio, which is a scrambled radio, it's a skewed radio, coordinates of the target, just confirming what we already knew or knew, a route. We were very flexible, we could have gone different places as well. Maybe the intel changed in the meanwhile, maybe the weather was bad in that area, we were rerouted to secondary target. So we were given the last minute target coordinates and the frequencies of the forward controller, or airborne forward controller for that matter. It could have been guy on the ground. For any national rep, could have been there. It could be Pakistani, Canadian, Italian, you name it, American, of course, or airborne Spanish F-18 or US F-18 or A-10s in the area, giving us the actual 9 line. So after we finished the refueling, we pushed, crossed the FIBA, the forward enemy battle area, so go to so-called enemy territory, which was really hot in terms of air to air, but was very hot on the ground for manpads and so forth. So we were more worried about ground air, SAM, of course, and that's why the profile was really not appropriate for this kind of airframe. Tornado was born to go low level, fast, in the bad weather, through the valleys at 0 altitude. That was his main aim. But for Bosnia's profile, we couldn't do that because of the the threat that we had on the ground, which was manpads again. So up to, let's say, 15, 20,000 feet, we were out of the envelope of most SAMs, and air-to-air was protected by the fact that there were a lot of air-to-air assets, F-15s, 16s in the area, so we were okay with that. We knew exactly where they were. There was something going on that were giving us a position of the threat, so bearing range and altitude, and we could push somewhere else or even egress from the area if we had to. The main thing was just go to the area, which was, let's say, an area called, I don't know, I'm just saying, just making up the word now, just call it Eritrea. Let's just for the sake of the exercise. We know exactly what Eritrea was, and it was a square in that region, which we were employed eventually. So we reach that area, get in touch with the, let's say, forward controller today for the exercise on the ground, and he started talking to us, identifying us as friendly with some code words, some exchange of information. Once he determined that we were actually what we were supposed to be, at that point we were start talking geographical location. We use the same example all the time. We start with the big picture. You see the city. What city is it? Does it have a river? Yes, it has. Where the river runs east, west, north, south. That's it. That's your city. Now you go east of the city. So, and then it goes smaller, 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 up until it gets to a DMPI, which is a pinpoint where we were supposed to drop our ordnance, which could have been, again, dumb bombs from the dive. 45 usually it was, to minimize our exposition to our let's say enemy forces, or drop an LGB and laser guided bomb through the system. So when we positively identified, absolutely no doubt that that was our target, we would have done that. So designate, positively identify it. The nav in the back was doing hard work. We're working towards this designation operation. Once he determined that everything was that, we were going hot. At that point, pilot would have put aircraft in unsafe, and in terms of armament was ready to go and was armed, laid arm on, and everything was good to go. At that point, in the envelope, in the basket of the ordnance envelope, we would have dropped the LGB, or again, if it was a visual dive, 45, there was wingman would have covered his 6, while the lead would come down and drop his ordnance. So profile could have changed depending on the quality and the type of target. So the target weapon matching was done in the planning stage before launching. If it changed due course, then we said, no can do, we had this kind of armament, we cannot do a soft targets, we're here for a concrete or hard target only, so it would have been rerouted somewhere else. But let's say everything was planned and executed as planned, as ATO dictated. So once the target was destroyed, we could have BDA'd straight with the TV tabs in the back. So we didn't have to BDA right along with the recce mission at the good old days. We can do it straight and live, looking at the TV tab, which was the one of the monitors that nav is in the back. So that was once the target was destroyed or not, we report that as a post task report to ABCCC, just a few lines just to determine what we did, following a scheme that we had, and we did this report live and back home. So once we finished, we debriefed, we check out with the forward controller, we push back. We usually didn't need to refuel. Again, sometimes we had to, if we really burned a lot of gas, if the area was really inland. But I never did. I would always get gas to go straight to Joya, which was very conveniently located base for this kind of operation, because if anything happens, you had that as an alternate airfield, because it was very close. You had different ones, Brindisi, Ancona, located in the coast, but Joya was just reachable in maybe 25 minutes from the area. So that was very stressful, very, very active, let's say, hour. Um, and it needed a lot of focus, a lot of attention, a lot of lookout and essay by both crews, and a lot of planning. I mean, Intel was involved again, assets in the area. Of course, ground crew and maintenance guys. They had to imagine prepare these 4 aircraft every day for years. They had to be efficient. Couldn't say, "Oh, tomorrow we don't have that aircraft because we're missing a piece." You couldn't afford to do that. You needed to keep your promise with NATO, and makes sense. You were participating in NATO the night flight, or whatever you want to call that operation at the time, campaign, and you need to keep your promise. So it was a lot of effort by. So kudos to all the crews, maintenance guys, ATC controllers, ABCCC guys, the C-130 tanker guys. They were loading for hours. AWACS, I didn't mention that, but that was always present, giving us the picture of what was going on, very discreetly, and only if necessary they'll intervene, and they will call out possible threat, which happened frequently. And maybe one of the next videos I'll talk about my personal experience in the area when things didn't go exactly as planned. But I would just want to give you a ballpark image or impression of what was the Bosnia sortie like at the time, with my powerful PA 200 Tornado. Thanks for watching this. See you next time.